Top 30 Correctional Officer Interview Questions and Answers. Preparing for a correctional officer interview requires more than simply knowing how to maintain security. Interviewers want candidates who can demonstrate sound judgment, emotional control, integrity, communication skills, physical readiness, and the ability to follow policies under pressure. In this guide, you will find 30 common correctional officer interview questions and professional sample answers. These questions cover inmate management, conflict resolution, emergency situations, teamwork, ethics, communication, safety, and difficult workplace scenarios. Use these answers as a foundation, but adjust them to reflect your own experience, qualifications, and professional approach. 1. Why do you want to become a correctional officer? I want to become a correctional officer because I am interested in public safety, maintaining order, and helping create a secure correctional environment. I understand that the position requires discipline, patience, integrity, and strong communication skills. I am comfortable following established procedures and remaining professional during stressful situations. I also recognize that correctional work involves treating inmates respectfully while maintaining appropriate boundaries. I believe my responsible attitude, willingness to learn, and ability to remain calm would help me perform this role effectively. 2. What do you know about the role of a correctional officer? A correctional officer is responsible for maintaining safety, security, and order within a correctional facility. Duties can include supervising inmates, conducting inspections, monitoring activities, documenting incidents, enforcing facility rules, responding to emergencies, and communicating with other staff. The role also requires professionalism and consistent application of policies. I understand that officers must balance security with respectful treatment of inmates. A successful officer needs strong observation skills, sound judgment, emotional control, teamwork, and the ability to respond appropriately when situations change quickly. 3. What qualities make a good correctional officer? A good correctional officer should have integrity, discipline, patience, alertness, communication skills, and emotional stability. Officers need to make decisions based on policy rather than personal feelings. They must also recognize potential problems before they become serious incidents. I believe reliability and consistency are especially important because inmates and coworkers need to know what to expect from an officer. A strong officer should remain respectful while maintaining authority, communicate clearly, document important events accurately, and work effectively with colleagues during routine duties and emergencies. 4. How would you handle a difficult or uncooperative inmate? I would remain calm, professional, and respectful while clearly explaining what is expected. I would listen to the inmate if appropriate and try to understand the reason for the behavior without becoming argumentative. I would avoid unnecessary confrontation and follow facility procedures for managing noncompliance. If the situation presented a safety concern, I would request assistance according to policy. My goal would be to resolve the situation safely while maintaining authority, protecting staff and inmates, and documenting significant events accurately afterward. 5. How would you handle an inmate who verbally insults you? I would not take personal insults personally or respond emotionally. I would maintain a professional tone and focus on the inmate's behavior and the applicable facility rules. If the behavior did not create an immediate safety issue, I would avoid escalating the situation through an unnecessary argument. I would provide clear instructions and explain consequences when required by policy. If the behavior continued or became threatening, I would follow established procedures and notify appropriate staff. Remaining composed demonstrates professionalism and helps prevent unnecessary escalation. 6. What would you do if two inmates started fighting? My first priority would be safety. I would immediately follow the facility's established response procedures, communicate the situation clearly, and request assistance when required. I would avoid acting impulsively and would use only authorized intervention methods appropriate to the circumstances and my training. Once the incident was controlled, I would help secure the area, ensure injuries receive appropriate attention, preserve relevant information, and complete required documentation. I understand that accurate reporting is important because even seemingly straightforward incidents may require investigation or administrative review. 7. How would you respond to an emergency inside a correctional facility? I would remain calm, quickly assess the situation, and follow the facility's emergency procedures. I would communicate relevant information to supervisors and other officers, prioritize immediate safety, and perform only actions for which I am trained and authorized. I would maintain awareness of surrounding risks rather than becoming focused on one problem. After the emergency, I would cooperate with supervisors, provide an accurate account of what occurred, and complete required reports. Staying composed and following established procedures helps reduce confusion during high-pressure situations. 8. How do you handle stressful situations? I handle stressful situations by focusing on the immediate priorities, following established procedures, and maintaining control of my emotions. I understand that correctional environments can involve unpredictable behavior and rapidly changing circumstances. Instead of reacting impulsively, I concentrate on what needs to be done safely and communicate clearly with my team. I also believe preparation reduces stress because knowing policies and responsibilities creates confidence. After difficult incidents, I review what happened and identify anything I could improve while maintaining professional boundaries. 9. How would you maintain professional boundaries with inmates? I would treat inmates respectfully while maintaining clear professional boundaries at all times. I would avoid favoritism, personal relationships, inappropriate conversations, unauthorized favors, or sharing unnecessary personal information. I understand that even seemingly harmless boundary violations can create security risks or undermine staff credibility. I would follow facility policies regarding communication, gifts, contact, and professional conduct. If an inmate attempted to establish an inappropriate relationship, I would respond professionally and report the situation through the proper channels when required, rather than handling it informally. 10. What would you do if an inmate offered you a gift? I would not accept the gift, because accepting anything from an inmate could violate facility policy or create an appearance of favoritism or improper influence. I would politely but firmly explain that officers must maintain professional boundaries. Depending on the circumstances and facility requirements, I would report the incident to my supervisor and document it appropriately. I understand that integrity is essential in correctional work. Even a small gift can create expectations or compromise professional judgment, so I would follow the established rules without making exceptions. 11. What would you do if you saw a coworker violating policy? I would take the situation seriously because correctional security depends on every employee following established procedures. If there were an immediate safety concern, I would act according to policy to protect people and notify the appropriate supervisor. For other violations, I would use the facility's reporting procedures rather than ignoring the behavior or handling it through workplace gossip. I understand the importance of professionalism and accountability. Loyalty to coworkers should never mean overlooking conduct that could compromise safety, security, integrity, or the proper operation of the facility. 12. How would you handle a conflict with another correctional officer? I would address the disagreement professionally and focus on the work issue rather than making it personal. If appropriate, I would discuss the matter privately with the coworker and listen to their perspective. If we could not resolve the issue, I would involve a supervisor according to workplace procedures. I would never allow a personal disagreement to interfere with security responsibilities or teamwork. Correctional facilities require coordinated responses, so I would remain respectful, communicate clearly, and prioritize the safety and effectiveness of the entire team. 13. How important is teamwork in correctional work? Teamwork is extremely important because correctional officers often depend on one another for communication, safety, supervision, and emergency response. Officers need to share relevant information, follow coordinated procedures, and support coworkers without compromising individual responsibilities. I believe effective teamwork requires trust, communication, accountability, and respect. I would keep my colleagues informed about important observations and follow instructions from supervisors. At the same time, I would remain responsible for my own actions. Strong teamwork helps staff respond consistently and reduces the risk of preventable mistakes. 14. How would you communicate with an inmate who is angry? I would use a calm, respectful, and controlled communication style. I would listen carefully without encouraging inappropriate behavior, give the inmate an opportunity to explain the issue when appropriate, and provide clear information about what I can or cannot do. I would avoid arguing, making threats, or responding emotionally. If the situation became unsafe, I would follow the appropriate response procedures and request assistance. My objective would be to reduce unnecessary tension while maintaining authority, professional boundaries, and compliance with facility rules. 15. What would you do if an inmate refused to follow an order? I would first make sure the order was clear, lawful, and consistent with facility policy. I would communicate the instruction calmly and, when appropriate, explain what is expected and what consequences may apply. I would avoid turning the situation into a personal confrontation. If the inmate continued refusing, I would follow established procedures for noncompliance and request assistance if necessary. I would use only methods permitted by my training and facility policy. Finally, I would document the incident accurately and objectively. 16. How would you handle confidential information? I would treat confidential information as a serious professional responsibility. I would only access or discuss information when authorized and necessary for my duties. I would avoid discussing inmate records, security procedures, or sensitive incidents with unauthorized individuals. I would also follow facility requirements for documents, electronic systems, passwords, and reports. If I were uncertain whether information could be shared, I would consult a supervisor rather than make assumptions. Protecting confidential information supports security, privacy, professional integrity, and public trust in the correctional system. 17. What would you do if you noticed suspicious behavior from an inmate? I would remain observant and avoid making assumptions based solely on appearance or rumors. I would assess the behavior objectively, maintain appropriate awareness of the surrounding environment, and report relevant observations through established procedures. If the behavior suggested an immediate threat, I would respond according to facility policy and notify other staff. I would document factual observations rather than exaggerating or speculating. Good correctional work requires officers to recognize potential security concerns while remaining fair, professional, and consistent in how they treat inmates. 18. How important is accurate report writing for a correctional officer? Accurate report writing is extremely important because correctional records may be used for administrative decisions, investigations, disciplinary proceedings, or legal matters. I would make reports factual, objective, clear, and timely. I would record what I personally observed, including relevant times, actions, statements, and responses, while avoiding assumptions or unnecessary opinions. I would review reports carefully for accuracy before submitting them. Good documentation creates a reliable record of events and demonstrates that an officer followed procedures and performed responsibilities professionally. 19. What would you do if you made a mistake at work? I would take responsibility for the mistake, report it promptly to the appropriate supervisor, and follow the required corrective procedure. I would not attempt to hide or alter information, because honesty is essential in correctional work. I would focus on limiting any potential consequences and learning from what happened. Afterward, I would identify why the mistake occurred and determine how I could prevent it from happening again. I believe acknowledging errors demonstrates accountability and ultimately strengthens professional reliability and trust. 20. How would you deal with inmates from different backgrounds? I would treat every inmate professionally and consistently, regardless of their background, beliefs, personality, or circumstances. I understand that correctional facilities contain people with different cultures, communication styles, experiences, and needs. I would avoid stereotypes and base my decisions on observable behavior, facility policy, and legitimate security considerations. I would communicate respectfully and seek clarification when necessary rather than making assumptions. Fair and consistent treatment helps maintain professionalism, reduces unnecessary conflict, and supports a secure environment for both staff and inmates. 21. What would you do if an inmate claimed an officer was treating them unfairly? I would listen professionally without making promises or immediately taking sides. I would explain that concerns should be addressed through the appropriate complaint or reporting process and notify a supervisor when required. If the complaint involved conduct that required immediate attention, I would follow applicable procedures. I would avoid discussing confidential matters with other inmates or making personal judgments about the allegation. My responsibility would be to remain neutral, follow policy, document relevant information, and allow the proper process to determine the facts. 22. How would you handle a situation where you disagreed with a supervisor? I would remain respectful and professional, even when I disagreed with a decision. If appropriate, I would ask questions privately to understand the reasoning behind the instruction and respectfully explain any concerns I had. If the instruction was consistent with policy, I would follow it and perform my responsibilities properly. If I believed an instruction created a serious policy, legal, or safety concern, I would use the appropriate reporting or escalation procedure. Professional disagreement should be handled through communication and established channels rather than confrontation. 23. What would you do if you suspected contraband was present? I would follow the facility's established contraband procedures and immediately notify the appropriate personnel. I would avoid taking unauthorized action that could compromise safety, evidence, or an investigation. Depending on the situation and my training, I would secure or preserve the relevant area as directed and document what I observed. I understand that contraband can create significant security risks, so even seemingly minor concerns should be handled seriously. My response would always remain consistent with policy training, evidence handling requirements, and supervisor instructions. 24. How would you respond if an inmate threatened you? I would take the threat seriously while remaining calm and professional. I would assess the immediate circumstances, maintain appropriate awareness, and follow facility procedures for threats. I would communicate the situation to the appropriate staff and request assistance when necessary. I would not respond with personal anger or make retaliatory statements. I would document the incident accurately, including relevant statements and actions, according to policy. My priority would be protecting safety, maintaining professional control, and ensuring the incident receives the appropriate institutional response. 25. How would you deal with an inmate attempting to manipulate you? I would maintain consistent professional boundaries and avoid making decisions based on pressure, sympathy, intimidation, or personal relationships. I understand that inmates may sometimes test boundaries or attempt to influence staff decisions. I would listen respectfully but make decisions according to policy and legitimate operational requirements. If I noticed repeated manipulation attempts or behavior that created a security concern, I would document and report it as appropriate. Consistency is important because making exceptions can compromise officer credibility and potentially create broader security problems. 26. What does integrity mean to you as a correctional officer? Integrity means doing the right thing consistently, especially when nobody is watching. For a correctional officer, it means being honest, following policies, protecting confidential information, reporting misconduct, maintaining professional boundaries, and treating people fairly. I believe integrity also means accepting responsibility for mistakes instead of hiding them. Officers have significant responsibilities and authority, so public trust depends on ethical conduct. I would make decisions based on policy, safety, and professional standards rather than personal relationships, convenience, pressure, or potential personal benefit. 27. How would you prepare for a correctional officer shift? I would begin by arriving on time, prepared, alert, and properly equipped according to facility requirements. I would review relevant information from the previous shift, including security concerns, incidents, changes in procedures, and important instructions. I would ensure that required equipment is functioning properly and remain mentally prepared for unexpected situations. During the shift, I would maintain awareness, follow established procedures, communicate important information, and document significant events. Proper preparation helps reduce avoidable errors and ensures I can respond effectively to changing circumstances. 28. How would you handle a situation involving an injured inmate? I would treat the injury seriously and follow the facility's emergency and medical response procedures. I would first consider immediate safety and communicate the situation to appropriate personnel. I would provide assistance only within the limits of my training and authorization, while ensuring the area remains controlled. I would not make unsupported medical judgments or interfere with qualified medical staff. After the situation was addressed, I would document what I observed and the actions taken according to policy, providing accurate information to supervisors and relevant personnel. 29. Why should we hire you as a correctional officer? You should hire me because I understand the importance of safety, professionalism, integrity, and consistent policy compliance in correctional work. I am prepared to remain calm under pressure, communicate respectfully, work as part of a team, and maintain appropriate professional boundaries. I am also willing to learn facility procedures and accept feedback from experienced supervisors. I would take the responsibilities of the position seriously and understand that my actions can affect staff, inmates, visitors, and overall facility security. I would bring reliability and accountability to the role. 30. Where do you see yourself in 5 years as a correctional officer? In 5 years, I hope to be an experienced and dependable correctional officer with a strong understanding of facility procedures, security practices, communication, and emergency response. I would like to continue developing professionally through training and experience while maintaining high ethical standards. If opportunities are available, I would be interested in taking on additional responsibilities or pursuing advancement based on my performance and qualifications. Most importantly, I want to build a reputation as someone supervisors and coworkers can trust to perform duties safely, professionally, and consistently. A successful correctional officer interview requires candidates to demonstrate much more than physical readiness. Interviewers are looking for individuals who can remain calm under pressure, communicate effectively, follow procedures, maintain professional boundaries, demonstrate integrity, and make responsible decisions during difficult situations. Reviewing these 30 questions can help you prepare thoughtful responses and understand the qualities correctional employers value. Practice answering each question naturally rather than memorizing every word. Use specific examples from your experience whenever possible, and consistently emphasize safety, professionalism, teamwork, accountability, and respect.